Kethran had seen many strange things in his long life. As the senior xenobiologist of the Velkari Dominion, he had studied over 12,000 different species from across the galaxy. He had seen creatures made of living crystal. He had documented beings that existed as pure energy. He had cataloged life forms that breathed methane and swam through oceans of liquid nitrogen. Nothing surprised him anymore. At least, that is what he believed. The Velkari Dominion was old, very old. They had traveled the stars for millions of years, long before most species learned to make fire. They watched younger civilizations rise and fall like waves on a beach. Some species joined the Dominion peacefully. Others were absorbed by force. A few were deemed too dangerous and were quietly eliminated before they could spread beyond their home worlds. It was all very routine, very boring, if Kethran was honest with himself. His ship, the Quiet Observer, drifted at the edge of an uncharted solar system. They had detected primitive, faster-than-light signals coming from the third planet. Another young species reaching for the stars. Another biological assessment to complete. Another report to file. Kethran stretched his forearms and yawned with his secondary mouth. His assistant, Yelmai, stood beside him at the observation deck. Her skin shifted through shades of blue and purple, reflecting her calm mood. "The new species calls themselves humans," Yelmai reported, reading from her datapad. "Carbon-based life forms. Bipedal. 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head. Warm-blooded. They breathe oxygen and consume organic matter for energy. How wonderfully ordinary," Kethran said. "What is their technology level? Primitive but developing quickly. They achieved powered flight only 200 of their years ago. Now they have basic space stations and have sent probes to their neighboring planets." Kethran made a dismissive sound. "Typical growth pattern for a Type 2 civilization. Nothing special. They have sent an ambassador to meet us." Yelmai continued. "A female of their species. She arrived in a small shuttlecraft 1 hour ago. Very well. Let us observe this human before we begin the biological scan." They moved to the meeting chamber, where the human ambassador waited behind a transparent barrier. Kethran studied her with professional interest. She was small, barely reaching his chest in height. Her skin was a soft brown color, and dark hair grew from the top of her head. She had 2 small eyes, a nose, and a mouth arranged in a flat face. Unremarkable, Kethran thought. Fragile-looking, the human saw them approach and did something strange with her face. Her lips pulled back to reveal flat white teeth. Kethran felt a small chill run down his spine. Was this a threat display? "That is called a smile," Yelmai whispered. "Our initial research suggests it indicates friendliness, showing teeth to indicate friendship," Kethran muttered. "How peculiar." The human pressed a device on her collar, and when she spoke, her words were translated into Velkari language. "Hello. My name is Ambassador Sarah Chen. On behalf of Earth and all humanity, I want to express our excitement at meeting intelligent life from beyond our solar system. We come in peace and hope for cooperation between our peoples." Peace. Cooperation. Kethran had heard these words from 1,000 species before. They always said the same things at first. Then came the negotiations. Then the compromises. Then, eventually, submission to the Dominion's will. "Welcome, Ambassador Chen," Kethran replied through his own translator. "The Velkari Dominion greets you. We have watched your species develop with great interest. You've been watching us?" The human's eyes went wide. Another strange expression. "We watch all emerging species. It is standard protocol. Please do not be alarmed." The human made a strange sound. Laughter, Kethran realized. His database identified it as an expression of amusement or joy. "That's fascinating," Ambassador Chen said. "We have so many questions. How long have you been observing Earth? How many other species are out there? What is your civilization like? How does your faster-than-light technology work?" The questions came rapidly, one after another. Kethran held up a hand to stop her. "There will be time for questions later. First, we must complete our standard biological assessment. It is painless and will only take a moment. We must understand your species before any further contact can proceed." The human tilted her head to one side. "A biological assessment? Like a medical scan? Something like that. We will examine your physical structure, your chemical composition, your evolutionary history. It helps us understand new species and determine how best to proceed with relations. That sounds amazing. Please go ahead. I'm curious to see what you find. Curious. The word stuck in Kethran's mind, though he did not know why. Yelmai. Initiate the deep biological scan. His assistant moved to the control panel and began the process. Invisible waves of energy passed through the human ambassador, reading every cell in her body, analyzing every chemical compound, mapping every genetic marker. The scan would reveal everything about this species in a matter of moments. Kethran watched the data begin to flow across his screen. At first, the readings were exactly what he expected. Carbon-based cellular structure, iron-based blood, standard mammalian biology. Then the anomalies began to appear. Kethran leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. That could not be right. He must have misread the data. Yelmai, he said slowly. Run the scan again. Senior, is something wrong? Just run it again. The second scan produced the same results. Then the third. Kethran felt his two hearts begin to beat faster. His skin, usually a calm shade of gray, started to turn pale. Senior Kethran? Yelmai's skin was flickering with concern. What is it? What do you see? Kethran did not answer. He simply stared at the data on his screen, reading it over and over, hoping he was wrong. He was not wrong. Behind the transparent barrier, Ambassador Chen continued to smile, unaware that she had just terrified one of the oldest beings in the galaxy. Kethran sat alone in his private laboratory, staring at the data screens that surrounded him. The lights were dim. He had not eaten in 12 hours. He had not slept in 36. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the scan results burned into his mind. The human ambassador had been returned to her ship with polite excuses. Standard quarantine procedures, Kethran had told her. Routine safety checks. She had smiled again and said she understood. She said she was patient. She said she was excited to learn more about the Dominion. Excited. Patient. These soft, harmless words from a creature that should not exist. Yelmai entered the laboratory quietly. Her skin was pale yellow with worry. She had seen some of the data, but not all of it. Kethran had locked the full results behind his personal security codes. Senior, she said softly, you must rest. You must eat. This is not healthy. Come here, Kethran said. His voice was flat. Empty. Sit beside me. I need to show you something. Yelmai approached slowly and took a seat next to her mentor. She had served under Kethran for 200 years. She had never seen him like this. Not when they discovered the silicon-based hive minds of Sector 7. Not when they lost 3 research teams to the acid-blooded hunters of the Krill Nebula. What did you find? She asked. Kethran pulled up the first data set. Let us start with the basics. Human physiology. The screen showed the internal structure of a human body. Bones, muscles, organs, blood vessels. It looked simple enough. Their skeletal structure is made of calcium compounds, Kethran began, similar to many carbon-based species. But look here. He zoomed in on a bone. When a human bone breaks, it does not simply heal. It rebuilds itself stronger than before. The break point becomes denser, harder, more resistant to future damage. Yelmai's skin flickered. That is unusual. It gets worse. Look at their muscular system. Another image appeared. Humans have a chemical called adrenaline. When they are frightened or angry, their bodies release this chemical. It increases their heart rate, sharpens their senses, and temporarily triples their physical strength. Triples? There are documented cases of humans lifting objects that weigh thousands of kilograms when their offspring are in danger. They call it hysterical strength. Their bodies can exceed their normal limits when they are emotionally activated. Yelmai was silent. Her skin had turned a sickly green. Now look at their immune system. Kethran changed the display. Most species have fixed immune responses. They can fight diseases they have encountered before, but new pathogens kill them easily. Humans are different. Their immune system learns. It adapts. It remembers every disease it has ever fought and creates new defenses against similar threats. They cannot be killed by disease. They can be killed, but they are remarkably resistant. Their species has survived plagues that killed half their population. They simply kept breeding, kept adapting, kept surviving. Catherine paused. And they did this without any genetic engineering. This is their natural state. He pulled up another file. Their evolutionary history is fascinating and terrifying. Humans evolved as persistence predators. I do not know that term, Yelmai admitted. Most predators in the galaxy use speed, venom, or ambush tactics to catch prey. Humans used endurance. They would chase an animal for hours, sometimes days. They would follow it under the hot sun, never stopping, never resting, until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. Then they would kill it. Yelmai made a sound of horror. They hunted by outlasting their prey. Yes, their bodies are designed for long-distance movement. They can regulate their temperature through liquid excretion. Sweat, they call it. They can run for entire days without stopping. No other species on their planet could match their endurance. Kethran stood up and walked to the window. Stars filled the black void outside. Somewhere out there, beyond the glass, was a small blue planet filled with these impossible creatures. There is more, he continued. Humans domesticated other predators, not for food, for companionship. They made friends with predators. One of their favorite companion animals is a creature called a dog. Dogs are descended from wolves, which were apex predators on their world. Humans took these killing machines and turned them into loyal pets through selective breeding. Dogs now love humans more than they love their own kind. They will die to protect human families. Yelmai stood up. Her legs were shaking. Senior, please. I do not want to hear more. You must hear more. You must understand what we are dealing with. Kethran turned to face her. Humans consume neurotoxins for pleasure. What? Capsaicin, caffeine, alcohol. These are toxic substances that would kill most species. Humans put them in their food and drinks because they enjoy the sensation. They actively seek out plants and chemicals that cause them pain and consume them for entertainment. He pulled up one final image. A picture of a human eating something red and steaming. This is a dish called curry. It is made with spices that trigger pain receptors in the mouth. Humans call this spicy food. They have competitions to see who can eat the most painful version without stopping. Yelmai sat back down. Her skin had lost all color. She looked like she might faint. How? She whispered. How did such creatures evolve? How did they survive? Their planet is a death world, Kethran said simply. Extreme temperatures, constant natural disasters, predators in every environment, diseases that mutate rapidly, poisonous plants and animals everywhere, radiation from their star that causes cellular damage. Everything on their world is trying to kill them. And they survived all of that? They did more than survive. They conquered it. They spread to every corner of their planet. They outlasted ice ages. They survived asteroid impacts. They built cities in deserts and jungles and frozen wastelands. Nothing could stop them. Kethran sat down heavily in his chair. For the first time in centuries, he felt old, tired, afraid. I have studied over 12,000 species, he said quietly. I have never seen anything like humans. They are not the strongest species. They are not the fastest or the smartest, but they might be the most dangerous. What do we do? Yelmai asked. Kethran looked at the image of Ambassador Chen still displayed on one of his screens. She was smiling in the picture, always smiling. I must bring this to the High Council, he said. They need to see what I have seen. They need to understand what is coming. What is coming, Senior? Kethran did not answer. He simply stared at the smiling human face on his screen and felt a fear he had not experienced in a very long time. The High Biological Council met in the Great Chamber at the heart of the Dominion capital. 12 senior officials sat in a circle beneath a domed ceiling that displayed real-time images of distant galaxies. These were the oldest and wisest beings in the Velkari civilization. They had guided the Dominion through wars, plagues, and cosmic disasters. They had made decisions that affected trillions of lives. Today, they sat in uncomfortable silence as Kethran finished his presentation. The holographic displays around the chamber showed image after image of human biology. Broken bones that healed stronger, immune systems that learned and adapted, muscles that could triple their output under stress. Kethran had shown them everything. Now he waited for their response. Counselor Vethan was the first to speak. He was ancient, even by Velkari standards. His gray skin hung loose on his thin frame, and his eyes were cloudy with age, but his mind was still sharp. Impressive biology, Vethan said slowly. But we have encountered physically powerful species before. We have always found ways to control them. Strength alone does not concern me. With respect, Counselor, Kethran replied. I have not yet shown you the most disturbing data. He changed the display. New information filled the air around them. This section covers human psychology and behavior. The council leaned forward. Psychology was often more important than biology. A strong species that was mentally weak could be easily manipulated. A smart species that was emotionally unstable could be made to destroy itself. Humans form social bonds, Kethran began. This is not unusual. Many species form family groups and communities. But humans take bonding to an extreme level. He showed a video of a human family. A man, a woman, and 2 small children. They were sitting together, eating food, and laughing. Humans bond with their families, of course. But they also bond with friends, neighbors, and even complete strangers. They will risk their lives to save people they have never met. They run into burning buildings to rescue others. They donate organs from their own bodies to sick people they do not know. That seems foolish, another counselor remarked. Why would they sacrifice themselves for strangers? Because they cannot help it. Bonding is hardwired into their brains. They see another being in pain, and they feel that pain themselves. They call it empathy. It drives them to help others even when doing so puts them in danger. Kethran changed the display again. Now it showed a human with a small furry animal in their arms. It goes beyond their own species. Humans bond with animals, with plants, with machines, with anything that shows even the smallest sign of personality or life. They keep predators as pets. They name their vehicles and talk to them. They become emotionally attached to cleaning robots. Cleaning robots? Counselor Vethan sounded confused. There is a documented case of humans holding funerals for broken machines. They form emotional connections with objects that have no feelings at all. And once they bond with something, they will protect it fiercely. The council exchanged worried looks. A species that would fight for anything it cared about was unpredictable, dangerous. Now, Kethran said, let me show you how humans respond to threats. The display changed to show images of human warfare throughout history. Primitive weapons gave way to guns, then bombs, then missiles. When humans encounter a problem, they do not respond in predictable ways. They innovate. They create new solutions. They think of things that have never been thought of before. He highlighted a timeline on the display. Humans discovered electricity approximately 200 of their years ago. Within that same period, they split the atom, created weapons capable of destroying entire cities, built machines that could think, and sent themselves into space. Their rate of technological progress is faster than any species we have ever recorded. Counselor Vethan raised a thin hand. Fast progress can be a weakness. They may destroy themselves before becoming a real threat. That brings me to my next point. Kethran pulled up new images. Cities reduced to rubble, mushroom clouds rising into the sky. Humans created nuclear weapons, bombs powerful enough to render their own planet uninhabitable. They built thousands of these weapons and pointed them at each other. They threatened their own extinction? Yes. And here is the remarkable part. Kethran paused to let his words sink in. They used this threat to create peace. 2 groups of humans, called the United States and the Soviet Union, both had enough nuclear weapons to destroy the world. Neither could attack the other without being destroyed in return. So neither attacked. The council was silent. The concept was almost too strange to understand. They call it mutually assured destruction, Kethran continued. They pointed the end of their world at themselves and used the fear to prevent war. For decades, this balance of terror kept them from destroying each other. That is insane, a young counselor whispered. Yes, and it worked. Humans are capable of turning their own weaknesses into strengths. Their fear of death made them create peace. Their aggression made them develop technology faster. Their empathy made them build societies that span their entire planet. Kethran stepped into the center of the council circle. He looked at each of the ancient faces around him. But there is something else. Something worse than their biology. Worse than their bonding. Worse than their weapons. What could be worse? Counselor Vethan asked. Their creativity is not just used for war. They create art, music, stories. They imagine worlds that do not exist and then try to build them. They dream of things no one has ever seen, and then make those dreams real. Kethran's voice dropped low. When we conquered the Threll Empire, we used their own fear against them. They were afraid of death, so we threatened death. When we absorbed the Nyx Collective, we exploited their desire for resources. Every species has weaknesses we can use. And humans? Kethran spread his forearms wide. Humans are different. They adapt. They change. They take their weaknesses and turn them into weapons. If we threaten them, they will find new ways to fight back. If we try to exploit them, they will learn and become resistant. They are not predictable. They are not controllable. The council chamber fell into a heavy silence. The ancient leaders of the Valkyrie Dominion looked at each other with expressions Kethran had never seen before on their faces. Fear. What do you recommend? Councillor Vethan finally asked. Kethran lowered his arms. I do not know yet, but I have not finished my presentation. There is one more thing you must understand about humans. The most dangerous thing of all. The councillors waited. Some of them seemed like they did not want to hear more. But they had to know. They all had to know. Their curiosity, Kethran said. That is what will destroy us all. The youngest member of the council raised a trembling appendage. His name was Kelvos, and he had only been appointed to his position 50 years ago. By Valkyrie standards, he was practically a child, but even he could sense the fear that now filled the chamber like a poison gas. Senior Kethran, Kelvos said, his voice shaking. You have shown us many terrifying things about these humans. Their strength, their adaptability, their weapons. But what is this curiosity you speak of? How can curiosity be dangerous? Kethran dimmed the lights in the chamber. The stars above seemed to grow brighter, colder. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. Curiosity is the desire to know, the need to understand, the drive to explore and discover and learn. Most species feel curiosity to some degree. It helps them find food, avoid predators, and solve problems. He pulled up a new display. It showed a human child looking at an insect through a magnifying glass. But humans have a form of curiosity that borders on madness. They do not simply want to know things that will help them survive. They want to know everything. They cannot leave a mystery unsolved. They cannot see a question without trying to answer it. The image changed to show a human standing on a mountain peak, arms raised in triumph. A human named George Mallory was once asked why he wanted to climb a mountain called Everest. It was one of the highest and most dangerous peaks on their planet. Hundreds had died trying to reach the top. When asked why he wanted to risk his life for a pile of rock and ice, Mallory gave an answer that defines the entire human species. Kethran paused. He said, because it is there. The council members exchanged confused looks. I do not understand. Councillor Vethan admitted. Neither do I, Kethran replied. And that is precisely my point. Humans do not need reasons to explore. They do not need benefits or rewards. They climb mountains because the mountains exist. They dive into the deepest parts of their oceans because the depths are unknown. They fly into space because space is there, waiting to be explored. He showed another image. This one displayed a small submarine at the bottom of a dark ocean trench. The deepest point in their oceans is called the Mariana Trench. The pressure there is so intense that it would crush most vehicles. The water is near freezing. There is no light. There is nothing of value to find. Humans built machines to go there anyway. They risked their lives to see a place that offered them nothing, except the knowledge that they had been there. Kethran walked slowly around the chamber as he spoke. They conduct experiments that have no practical purpose. They study particles so small that they can never be seen. They build machines to detect waves of gravity that pass through the entire planet without effect. They spend fortunes trying to answer questions that will not improve their lives in any way. That sounds wasteful, Kelvos said. It is. And it is also the source of all their power. Kethran stopped and faced the young counselor. Every dangerous thing humans have ever created was born from curiosity. Nuclear weapons came from wanting to understand atoms. Genetic engineering came from wanting to understand life. Artificial intelligence came from wanting to understand thought. They create danger by asking questions? Yes. They cannot help themselves. They see a mystery, and they must solve it, regardless of the consequences. A human scientist named Marie Curie studied radioactive materials until the radiation killed her. She knew the danger. She kept working anyway. Her notes are still so contaminated that they must be kept in lead-lined boxes. The display showed images of scientists in laboratories, explorers in jungles, astronauts floating in space. Humans will poison themselves, burn themselves, crush themselves, freeze themselves, all in the name of discovery. They will travel into the void of space in fragile metal containers, knowing they may never return. They will inject themselves with experimental medicines to see what happens. They will enter burning buildings, dive into freezing water, and walk into war zones, all to learn something new. Counselor Vethan leaned forward. But surely this recklessness would reduce their numbers. Natural selection should remove such dangerous behavior. That is what logic would suggest. Kethran agreed. But humans do not follow logic. Their curiosity is so powerful that it overrides their fear of death. And the ones who survive their dangerous explorations bring back knowledge that makes the entire species stronger. He returned to the center of the chamber and stood beneath the stars. Do you understand what this means for us? Humans now know that intelligent life exists beyond their planet. They know there is a vast galaxy full of mysteries waiting to be explored. They know we have technology far beyond their own. Kethran's voice grew harder. They will come, not because they want to conquer us, not because they want our resources. They will come because they want to know. They want to learn our languages, study our cultures, understand our technology. They want to map every star, explore every planet, meet every species. They will spread across the galaxy like a flood, driven by nothing more than the need to see what is over the next horizon. Counselor Vethan's ancient face had gone pale. Can we stop them? We could destroy them now, while they are still weak. But that would require committing genocide against a species that has done us no harm. And even then, we might fail. Humans are scattered across their solar system. Some might survive, some might rebuild, and they would remember what we did. What about containment? We could surround their system and prevent them from leaving. For how long? 100 years? 1,000? Humans learn quickly. They adapt. They would eventually find a way past any barrier we create, and their curiosity would turn hostile. They would wonder what we are hiding. They would become determined to find out. The chamber was silent. The oldest and wisest beings in the galaxy sat in their ancient chairs and felt something they had not felt in millions of years. They felt helpless. There is one more thing, Kethran said quietly. Something I noticed during my scans. The human ambassador. When I told her we would conduct a biological assessment, she did not resist. She did not ask questions about her rights or demand privacy. Do you know what she said? No one answered. She said she was curious to see what we would find. She was excited to learn what our technology could reveal about her own body. Kethran let out a long breath. She welcomed an invasive scan from an unknown alien species because she wanted to know the results. He looked around at the terrified faces of the council. That is what we are dealing with. A species so hungry for knowledge that they will open themselves to potential enemies just to learn something new. We cannot threaten creatures who do not properly fear danger. We cannot hide from creatures who will never stop looking. Counselor Vethan finally spoke. His voice was tired, old, defeated. Then what do we do, Senior Kethran? What can possibly be done? Kethran had no answer. For the first time in his long career, he simply did not know. The vote took 3 days. In all the history of the Velkari Dominion, no decision had ever taken so long. The 12 counselors argued, debated, and shouted at each other. They reviewed Kethran's data hundreds of times. They called in experts from across the galaxy. They ran simulations and calculated probabilities and consulted ancient texts for guidance. In the end, only 4 options remained on the table. The first option was extermination. They could send their war fleets to the human homeworld and destroy the species before it could spread further. The technology gap was still large enough that victory would be certain, but this option required killing billions of creatures who had done nothing wrong. Several counselors refused to support what they called genocide of the innocent. The second option was containment. They could surround the human solar system with an impenetrable barrier and prevent the species from ever leaving. But Kethran's analysis showed this would fail eventually. Humans would spend generations trying to break through. Their curiosity would never let them accept imprisonment, and when they finally escaped, they would be angry. The third option was doing nothing. They could simply leave the humans alone and hope the species would develop peacefully. But this was the most dangerous choice of all. Unguided, human curiosity would eventually turn toward the Dominion. They would come with questions. They would come with scanners and probes and explorers. They would learn every secret the Valkyrie possessed. That left the fourth option, the option that no one wanted to discuss. The option that went against everything the Dominion had stood for during millions of years of galactic supremacy. Friendship. Counselor Vethan spoke the words that everyone was thinking. If we cannot contain them, we must guide them. If we cannot control their curiosity, we must direct it. We must give them something else to explore. Something far away from us. You are suggesting we help them? Kelvos asked in disbelief. I am suggesting we survive them. Vethan stood up slowly, his ancient body protesting the movement. The humans will explore the galaxy, whether we like it or not. The only question is whether they do so as our enemies or our allies. If we befriend them now, while they are still young and grateful, we can shape their expansion. We can point their curiosity toward the edges of the galaxy, toward the darkness between stars, toward mysteries that will keep them occupied for thousands of years. And if that fails, then we will have lost nothing. But if it succeeds, we will have gained the most valuable allies in the galaxy. Imagine human creativity working with Valkyrie wisdom. Imagine their adaptability combined with our experience. Imagine an alliance that could face any threat, solve any problem, explore any frontier. The vote was held. It was unanimous. The Valkyrie Dominion would become friends with humanity. 1 week later, Kethran returned to the meeting chamber where Ambassador Chen waited. She was still smiling. She had been smiling every time he saw her. He was starting to get used to it. Ambassador Chen, he said formally, the High Council has reached a decision regarding your species. The human leaned forward eagerly. Her eyes were bright with anticipation. What did they decide? Kethran paused. He had practiced this speech many times, but now the words felt strange on his tongue. The Valkyrie Dominion wishes to offer humanity full alliance status. We will share our star maps, our technology, and our knowledge. We will help your species develop faster than light travel capable of reaching distant galaxies. We will introduce you to other civilizations who may become your friends and partners. Ambassador Chen's smile grew even wider. Her whole face seemed to glow with happiness. That's incredible. We were hoping for peaceful relations, but a full alliance. This is more than we ever expected. There is one condition. The ambassador's smile faded slightly. What condition? Kethran activated a holographic display. A map of the galaxy appeared, with a small region highlighted in blue. This is Valkyrie space. Our worlds, our colonies, our territories. We ask that humanity respect our privacy. Do not send exploration vessels into our space without permission. Do not scan our planets or study our people without consent. There is much to discover in the galaxy. We ask only that you discover it somewhere else. Ambassador Chen studied the map for a long moment. Kethran watched her carefully, looking for any sign of suspicion or resistance. Instead, she laughed. Is that all? You want us to stay out of your backyard? She shook her head, still chuckling. Counselor Kethran, the galaxy is enormous. There are billions of stars to explore, countless planets to study, endless mysteries to solve. Why would we waste time poking around your space when there's so much else to see? She extended her hand again. That strange human gesture of agreement. You have a deal. Humanity accepts your offer of alliance. We'll respect your boundaries, and in exchange, you help us reach the stars we've been dreaming about since we first looked up at the night sky. Kethran took her hand. Her grip was stronger than he expected. The strength was always hidden with humans, he reminded himself. Hidden beneath soft skin and friendly smiles. Welcome to the galactic community, Ambassador Chen. I hope this is the beginning of a long and peaceful relationship between our peoples. I hope so too. Her smile returned, warm and genuine. We have so many questions, so much to learn, so many places to go. Her eyes seemed to look past Kethran, past the walls of the ship, out toward the infinite darkness of space. We've been waiting our whole history for this moment. You have no idea how excited we are. Kethran suppressed a shudder. He had a very good idea, actually. He had seen the data. He had studied the scans. He knew exactly how excited humans could get when presented with new mysteries to solve. and that knowledge terrified him. Later, as Ambassador Chen's shuttle departed toward her home world, Kethran stood alone at the observation window. Yelmai joined him, her skin a calm shade of blue. "Do you think we made the right choice?" she asked. "I do not know. Ask me again in 1,000 years." They watched the human ship grow smaller and smaller until it disappeared into the darkness. "The age of the Valkyrie Dominion is ending," Kethran said quietly. "For millions of years, we were the masters of this galaxy. We decided which species would rise and which would fall. We controlled the flow of knowledge and the paths of expansion. We were the eldest, the wisest, the most powerful." He turned away from the window. "Now the humans are awake. Their curiosity has been unleashed on the universe. They will explore every corner of the galaxy. They will ask every question. They will solve every mystery. And we can only hope that when they have learned everything there is to learn, they will remember that we were their friends." Yelmai's skin flickered with worry. What if they do not remember? Kethran walked toward the door. He was tired. So very tired. "Then we had better hope we gave them enough stars to explore. Because if human curiosity ever turns back toward us, nothing in the universe will stop them from learning all our secrets." The door closed behind him. Outside the window, the stars waited. And somewhere among them, on a small blue planet orbiting an ordinary yellow sun, billions of humans were looking up at those same stars, with wonder in their eyes and questions in their hearts. The age of human curiosity had begun. The galaxy would never be the same.